Hey guys, so I made a video last week about jailbreaking the mind. So I thought we could continue with that theme, but this time it'll be a little different. I'm more like gonna do my old videos, just telling a story or sharing something, but with the emphasis on jailbreaking the mind. So with that said, let's just go over some concepts that we all live by, generally, but maybe we don't categorize them quite in the same way that I'm gonna talk about them, but if you look into them, feel them, think about them, relate them to your own life, they may sink in, it may shift something. So, what is a life in general? Like your life. It's usually, would you say, it feels like separate events. Separate events happening around your sphere of experience. An event usually feeling like it's not connected to the previous event. There's usually like a passage of time or an experience of a passage of time between these memories, these things that happen to you, as you would say, your sphere. So let's look at what an event is. Maybe look at what time is. Maybe look at what the idea of an object is. So let's start with an event. Usually the first event we correlate our lives with is being born. So, is being born one event and listening to this video another event, separated by the passage of time and memory? Or are events connected? Not separate, continuous. Like the event of being born is not separate from the events of your parents being born, which is not separate from their parents being born, which is not separate from a planet being formed, a galaxy being formed, from an event so-called the Big Bang. These events aren't separated. You could at least maybe let in the fact that maybe they're not separated by the fact that events are connected. Maybe you could say they're separated by the feeling of time or the idea of time. The event of parents being born and your being born are one continuous event, which is continuous with the Big Bang, which is continuous with before the Big Bang, which is continuous before that and into infinity. Now, simultaneous with this layer of thinking that we generally have of like separate events, which I'm hopefully showing you that maybe they're not separate, is this idea that we're also maybe an object in these events. So what does it take to become an object? What is an object? Like I can hold up my mask as an object, but it's not an object without the connection to so-called other objects, right? So like this wouldn't be a mask without cloth, maybe yarn, which are related to animals. So this is more like an animal than a mask. And an animal, if we wanted to dissect what an animal is it's food. I mean, it eats stuff, and then it becomes an animal. So this is more like what an animal eats. But what does an animal eat? Well, it eats what comes from the earth. Or what is the earth? And all that entails. So this is no different than the earth. Like, this is the earth. This is the earth. This is the earth. This is the earth. Which is no different than, well, what is the earth? Well, the earth is objects, you could say, or a process called the Big Bang that formed space itself and all that other stuff that I can't tell with great detail like a scientist can. So this event slash supposed object things is all one thing, is all one event, one object that is itself. Right? And we can throw in some other stuff. Some other ideas of an object is something that is solid, it's static, it's here. But here is usually in relation to something else that's over there. Like, here is only here because there's walls to define it. Like there couldn't be a here without other things in relation to it. Maybe maybe I'm not saying enough to flush that one out. So I'm not sure if you can let's see like if I said this object, this little string is here, and then I moved it here, you would say it's now here. It's no longer here. But if you zoom the lens out far enough, let's say to above outer space, to above the Earth, rather, here is no longer here. The Earth has already rotated. So this idea that I'm here still is actually kind of wrong. And where you are is no longer where it is actually called here. You're somewhere else now. Like, the Earth rotating causes everything to be somewhere else at all times. So there's never really a static place called here. And then the planets themselves are rotating around the sun. So here is never really established because the planet is in motion. So we're technically never statically somewhere. And then the universe itself is actually moving through space. So there's nothing that's actually stable. And then if you want to like look into like quantum physics and you look at like the root matter that we've been able to like see, or maybe non-matter, it's called potential. Electrons and these energies are just potentials. There's no place where they are. They're just potentially somewhere. So what we are is never in any particular static spot. So there's no real static thing that could be called an object here or here. It's always moving, but somehow it feels like it's stable, it's still. And there's events that feel like they happen then and now. Like what I was just talking about before seems like it was a before, but is that only just in the processing of how we think about things? Because as I've described, this event is not separate from the previous event. There's just an experience called time between them. Perhaps a memory between what's happening now and before. Or maybe there isn't an experience of time or memory. You're just here in the now. So again, hopefully that was a jailbreak of some sort. And this idea that there is so-called static, real objects that are independently real in and of themselves, as opposed to you and I just being products of Fu, which are products of Earth, which are products of Big Bang, which are products of things before, which don't happen in a thing called an event that's linked between separate events. It's just an event, the event called what's happening, the event called whatever you want to call it. It's just happening event now with no stable objects in actuality. Experientially, it feels, thankfully, relatively stable for some at times. It's not always that way, yeah. But yeah, the point of the video is more of a jailbreak from held conceptions. I'd be curious to hear what you think. I love debates. If you think you have some information that proves what I'm saying wrong, I'm always open ears. And even if you don't agree, at least look into your own ideas of what you think is true and hold them to the same standards of critique. Because maybe this isn't correct, but is what you think correct? And if it's not, then perhaps that's its own jailbreak from your own ideas. All right, so I'll leave you with that. This feels like a good place to stop. Okay, guys, take care. Bye.